not almost, but 2 months ago. So 2 months ago, we launched a topic called the urgency of the kingdom of God. And today is part number 8. So if you've been here through every Sunday, you've got a lot of good stuff. If you missed, go back to YouTube and listen to some of the previous parts of this interesting and unique series that we titled this way because there is an urgency. And the urgency is in a few things. First of all, the urgency is in the fact that time is running low, time is running out for you to receive Jesus Christ. So those of you who haven't accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, you haven't asked Him for forgiveness, you haven't made that step of faith, time is running out, okay? And that's the urgency. The time is running out. The other part of urgency is that Jesus is coming. People get ready. Jesus is coming. Soon we'll be going home. Sound familiar? All right. Worship team, sound familiar? All right, good. Yes, so Jesus is coming. We don't know when. For His second coming will happen, and we got to get ready, okay? Now, for some of us, it might happen sooner than others, probably, and it's not because you're older than others. It's just because God has appointed a time for you to leave this earth. So that's another thing, fear-mongering there for you, okay? You might die soon, so it's urgent, okay? And the last part of urgency is that, hey, there's no time to waste to serve God. The time to serve God is now, today. And if you're a disciple of Jesus, you should be serving Him. And it's urgent that you do what He wants you to do starting today, if not yesterday. So that's the title of our series. And today we are opening chapter 10 of the Gospel of Mark. So if you have your Bibles, please open to chapter 10 of the Gospel of Mark. And we're going to read verses 46 through 52. Verses 46 through 52, Mark chapter 10. We've been studying the Gospel of Mark all these Sundays, and today is going to be an exciting part, just as the other parts were. Let's read. Let's read this passage. You may follow along if you don't have a Bible. If you need a Bible, if you want a Bible, let us know. We can gift you a Bible. But here are these verses. They came to Jericho, speaking of Jesus and the people who were with Him. As Jesus was leaving Jericho with His disciples and a great crowd, Bartimaeus, a blind beggar, the son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he cried out all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up, he's calling you." And throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. And Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" And the blind man said to him, "Rabbi, let me recover my sight." And Jesus said to him, "Go your way, your faith has made you well." And immediately, those of you who've been with us, there's the word, and immediately he recovered his sight and followed him on the way. So a very cool interaction between Jesus and a man who was blind. It's a very cool story. There's a lot of awesome little details and hidden meanings and different little things that can be brought up in this discussion, in this encounter between Jesus and Bartimaeus. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I do encourage you to study this passage even deeper once we're done. This is going to be so exciting for you to find out even more things about what actually happens here. So, a little background before that, though. Jesus is on His way, and Mark says that He's leaving Jericho, right? So somewhere on the outskirts of Jericho, on this well-traveled road where a lot of people travel to Jerusalem, Jesus is traveling with His disciples, and the crowd is following Him, and they are passing by this blind man by the name Bartimaeus. Where is Jesus going? He's going to Jerusalem. Why is He going to Jerusalem? because he is going to go and fulfill his mission entering the Jerusalem. And next week on Palm Sunday, we're actually going to be celebrating the Jesus' entrance into Jerusalem. And what happens a few days later after his entrance into Jerusalem? He gets crucified. So these are the last few days of Jesus' life right here. And this is one of the last interactions he has with one of the people. So he is on the road to be crucified. Remember that point. Remember that thought. And he meets a man by the name of Bartimaeus. Now, something unique out of this passage to give you right away. Nowhere else does Mark mention a person who was healed by Jesus by name. Thank you. Nowhere else does he mention anyone by name. Remember, we talked about the Syrophoenician woman. She was just a Syrophoenician woman. We know her nationality. We know her background a little bit. We know what her need is. But we don't know her name. And nowhere else does Mark mention a name except here. So we know now that there's something special about this interaction with Bartimaeus. Well, what is so special about this name? Is there anything special about this name? And there is. So the name Bartimaeus is mentioned twice here, and you can see it in verse 46. He says that he met Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, which is literally the same thing. Bar means son. Okay? So basically, Mark says, Jesus met son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, the son of Timaeus. Why does he do that? Well, there's a meaning to the word Timaeus. Timaeus actually means high prize, highly prized, or honored. So if you transliterate it and you say it by the meanings, you can say that he met Bartimaeus, the highly prized son, or the son of honor. Jesus was passing by, and he meets this blind beggar, the son of honor, the highly prized son. Bartimaeus, son of honor. Kind of sounds like an oxymoron. Kind of two opposites. You have a blind beggar, a man who is poor, a man who can't see, a man who can't find his way to where he lives and back to where he begs. And he kind of sitting there on the side of the road in shame, but his name means highly honored. The two don't come together. You're honored when you have money. You're honored when you have a reputation. You're honored when you have respect of the people. But here you have someone who is far from that status, but has a name of highly honored. It's a beautiful name that was probably given to him by his parents. Parents who, when they gave birth to the son, they were holding him in their arms and like, this is Bartimaeus. This is our honor. This is a highly prized gift we received. And they're excited about it. And they're like, man, he's going to go to Yale. He's going to get the highest degree. He's going to be a CEO of a big company. He's going to know the law very well, right? He's going to be an amazing boy that we pray that God blesses him and he's amazing, right? But something happens. And we don't know actually if he was born blind or if he became blind throughout his life. But something happens and he's blind. And all of a sudden you start feeling like the name and his life don't maybe go together hand in hand. And all the hopes are kind of dying away. And all the dreams and plans are kind of affected by this. There's very little hope for future. He's ignored by the society, perhaps even rejected by his family. Perhaps. That's just an assumption I'm making. One thing I want you to see today is as we talk about the interaction between Bartimaeus and Jesus is that Bartimaeus is each one of us. The story of Bartimaeus is a story of you and me. God created you with a unique name. He created you with a special image. He created you in His image. He created you highly prized and honored. And let me prove that to you by reading from Psalm 8, verses 4 through 5. Where the writer of the Psalm says, what is man? He asks this question, he kind of talking to God. What is man? What is person that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honor. God created man and woman and crowned them with glory and honor. He created them perfect. He created them in His image. He created them to love, to relate with God, to be with God, to have these healthy relationships, to have an amazing and enjoyable life, only to be blinded, like Bartimaeus, only to be blinded by sin. Something happens, and that one thing is sin that takes away our dignity. That sin that blinds people and separates them from God. That sin that continues to put shame over us. That sin that causes the passing crowds to pass through and not notice you. That sin that keeps telling you that you're not intelligent, you're not beautiful, you're not needed, you're not capable of things. You don't deserve hope, you don't deserve love, you don't deserve attention. That sin that blinds you and separates you from God and turns you into a beggar on the road asking for mercy. And so what we have here is we have an urgent plea of a blind beggar for mercy. What we have here is the urgent plea of a blind beggar who is seeking at least a little bit of hope, who's seeking at least a little bit of that love, that life that he hasn't had. What we see here is a blind beggar, Bartimaeus, urgently calling out to Jesus for mercy, demonstrating the immediacy with which one should seek help and salvation. What I want you to notice, and you probably noticed this already, but what I want you to notice throughout the rest of my sermon here is, I want you to see a man who saw an opportunity to meet Jesus and took it. I want you to see an individual who saw an opportunity to call out to Jesus and did it. And he didn't wait. He didn't put it off for the next day. He didn't put it off for the next hour. He knew that the moment was there, right there in front of him, and he said, I got to take this moment. I got to seize this opportunity. I got to embrace this opportunity because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I don't want to be blind tomorrow. I don't want to be a beggar tomorrow. I want to be with Jesus tomorrow. He saw this opportunity, he took it. So, this is the theme I want you to keep in mind throughout the rest of the sermon. Because some of you, and I'm saying this with love, some of you have been coming to church for so long, and you hear about Jesus, and you know that he heals, you know that he opens spiritual blindness, you know that he forgives, you know that he accepts, you know that he saves, but you're not seizing the opportunity to come to him, to embrace him, to say, Jesus, forgive me and save me. So if that is the case in your life, today is an amazing day, following the example of Bartimaeus, of not wasting the opportunity that Jesus is giving you. So let's learn a few lessons of what happens through these interactions. First thing that we see is that when Bartimaeus heard that Jesus of Nazareth has come or is nearby, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. This is a cry of someone who knows what Jesus can do. This is a cry of faith already. So this guy, he has some faith already. Why? Because he has probably heard that in that other city, Jesus healed a blind man. He has probably heard that in that other place, Jesus healed a lame man. He heard maybe about a woman who was bleeding and Jesus healed her. He probably heard of all these miracles, and he's like hoping, man, when is Jesus going to come my way? And here you have a result of that little faith, that small faith, where he says, he's here. I got to do something. And what does he do? He uses his ears and he uses his mouth. He doesn't use his eyes. Why not? Because he doesn't have the sight. Duh, we just read that. Come on, Pastor, right? Yeah. He can't see, but he can hear and he can speak. Way too often, you guys, way too often, we focus on what we cannot do rather than what we can do to practice our faith, to put our faith in practice, to apply our faith in practice. Well, I can't be preaching. I'm not a preacher. What can I do? I can't do anything. Well, I can't sing. I can't be on a worship team. I guess I can't do anything. Well, I can't, you know what? I'm not really a leader, so I can't host a small group. Well, I can't really do this. You know what? I'm not good with my hands. I can't be creative, so I can't really go and help make stuff or something like that. And we focus on what we can't do rather than looking at what we can and what we have to use that to put our faith in practice. And this guy says, I have hearing, and I hear that Jesus is here. And I have my mouth, and I can speak. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to proclaim, first of all, that I believe by calling on Jesus. If this guy did not believe that Jesus can heal him, he would not be calling on Jesus. He would not be calling on him if he did not believe that Jesus can do something. So he expresses his faith with what he has. With what he has. What do you have today to put your faith in practice? Could be a spiritual gift. It could be a talent. It could be something material that you have. In Romans chapter 12, Apostle Paul writes, and this is going to be a summarization, you all have gifts. Some of you, your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance to your faith. If it's serving, then serve. If it's teaching, teach. If it's encouraging, well, then give encouragement. If it is giving, give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it's to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Isn't that amazing? That with all the people that we have here today, everyone has a gift and something to add to make this beautiful painting or put this beautiful puzzle together to create something amazing. Paul is trying to say that you have gifts and you have something rather than focusing on what you don't have. Focus on what you have and use that, practice that in your faith. Many rebuked him. This is what people did to this guy. The crowd rebuked him or basically told this guy, be silent. Shut up, man. Nobody cares about you. You're here on the side of the road. You're a poor beggar. You can't see. Jesus is on the mission. He's got no time for you. Remember, we tend to do this on behalf of Jesus. Like, well, Jesus can't reach this person. Jesus can't heal that person. Jesus doesn't have time for that. We tend to do that. And even, like, there's another example when a group of people decided to keep another group of people away from Jesus. Anyone of you remember that? There's disciples of Jesus tried to keep whom from meeting Jesus? Children. Right? I'm an adult. I know what's what. I know how you're going to meet Jesus or not. I know how you're going to. I know what's right. Okay, you kids, you go. You know you can't meet Jesus right now. He's doing his own thing. You blind, poor man, you can't. Jesus got no time for you. And we somehow start being an obstacle to people for meeting Jesus rather than helping him. And all these people who knew that Jesus could heal, instead of doing what the 4 friends did that opened the roof and brought a man to be healed, they said, shh, 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 shh. Be quiet. Be quiet. Bartimaeus faces opposition, but he doesn't allow his opposition to be the deciding factor in what he does. Basically, he says, haters going to hate. Haters always going to hate, but I'm going to do what I know is right to do. How does he know what is right to do? He has faith. And he knows what voice to listen to. And he listens to the voice of the faith that is in him. So one other thing I wanted you to think about today is you must make a choice today whose voice you listen to. Because you know that is true, that anytime you try to do something different in your life, all of a sudden, there's an opposition. Anytime you're like, you know what? Today, I'm going to start reading my Bible every day for 15 minutes. All of a sudden, something comes up and you don't. Today, I'm going to start praying every day for 30 seconds a day, and something comes up to take those 30 seconds away from you. Today, I'm going to start praying for that one person to be saved, and something comes up and you stop praying. Today, I'm going to change my life. My life, not my love. Maybe my love. Today, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to live a different life. I'm going to do something different to build better habits. And as soon as you start doing that, you start facing opposition. Maybe it's people who come into your life and they're like, do you really need to struggle like that? Like, hey, YOLO, come on. Really? Why even try it? You live, you die, enjoy it. So there's, in a sense, 2 voices speaking into Bartimaeus' life. The voices of opposition saying, be quiet. And there's a voice from within, the voice of his faith, that is telling him, you need to cry out for mercy. And he listens to that voice. Today, there has been a voice already telling you, not my voice, no, maybe my voice, telling you already, speaking to you already, maybe today is the day I need to make that step of faith. Maybe today is the day that I may need to make that decision to change something in my life. But then there's another voice that's probably telling you something else. Be quiet. You can wait till tomorrow. You can wait till next Sunday. You can wait. You know what? What will people think? What will your family think? How will your family receive that? What will your friends think? Will you lose friends? Oh, but what about the sin? You know, you've sinned so much. Will Jesus really forgive you? But if you do this, you're going to need to go back and maybe ask someone for forgiveness, and you're going to need to acknowledge things. And so all these voices of doubt begin to become an opposition in your life. Be attentive to the right voices. And the right voice is the voice of faith that's telling you to follow Jesus. It is important to acknowledge that spiritual opposition is real. The spiritual opposition's goal is to manipulate our emotions in order to keep us from fulfilling the plans of God for our lives. And so healing comes to those who are persistent in faith. This guy, he was persistent in his faith. He was persistent in crying out to Jesus, and he chose to listen to the voice of faith, not the voice of doubt. And Jesus heard. Through the noise, through the crowd, Jesus hears Bartimaeus. He stops and he says, call him. Oh, that's a nice voice to hear. That's a great voice to be attentive to. That's an exciting voice to hear in your life after you've been pleading. And they called the blind man. All of a sudden, the crowd changes. All of a sudden, now they're like, oh, yeah, we're on Jesus' side. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, come on over here. He's calling you. Calm down. Don't worry. Why are you worried? Why are you freaking out, right? Take heart. Get up. He's calling you. Well, now you're a nice crowd. What about the minute before, right? Anyways, but Jesus hears the cries of the oppressed. He hears you no matter who you are and in which position you find yourself. He hears you through the noise of crowds, through the noise of circumstances, through the noise of obstacles. He hears you even when you think there is way too many sins between you and Him. He hears you through all of that. He hears you even when you think your cry is being silenced by people rejecting the truth. He hears you and He calls you and He says, come here. I want to take care of you. I want to deliver you. I want to bless you. And what an amazing reaction by Bartimaeus. He throws off his cloak. I just imagine, like he gets up and he just throws off his cloak. He springs up. I love this word. He sprang up, right? Like a little kid. And he came. I wonder if he ran to Jesus. I don't know. I mean, he can't see yet, right? So, but he's excited. Do you feel the excitement there? He's throwing off his cloak. The cloak that hid him for so many years. The cloak that he probably used to maybe cover his shame. Maybe cover his deficiencies somehow. Maybe a cloak that was used to collect change that people would drop sometimes on the way past him. But this cloak that is so representative of his previous life and previously who he was, he throws it off and he's like, I don't need this cloak anymore. Jesus called my name. I don't need to hide under this blanket. Jesus called my name and I see light. I want to go towards light. He moves it aside and comes to Jesus. He seizes the opportunity to follow God's calling. He seizes the opportunity to follow God's calling right there in that moment. And it's interesting. It's crazy. Like, instead of Jesus coming to him, he goes to Jesus. I mean, I don't know what the deepest meaning of that could be, but one thing I know for sure is it probably took some faith to make those steps towards Jesus. But he said, today I'm going to seize this opportunity. I hear that Jesus is calling my name. He wants me to do something. I'm going to do it because my opportunity is today and I need to seize it. I'm not going to wait till tomorrow. I'm not going to wait till next Sunday. I'm not going to wait till next small group meeting. I'm not going to wait till next, next something happening. I'm going to take the opportunity today. So I want to tell you right now that the opportunity to accept Christ is today. Seize it. If you haven't accepted Christ, if you haven't repented, seize it today. The opportunity to serve Christ is today. It can be inside this building, it can be on the outside of this building, but the opportunity is today. And during the announcements, you're going to hear a lot of opportunities to serve. Today is the opportunity. Seize it. Do not let it go. The opportunity to tell others about Christ is today. Seize that opportunity. When you have the opportunity to tell someone about Jesus, seize it. Don't shy away from it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't run away from it. That is the opportunity that God is giving you to be practical in your faith. Seize it. And God will bless you. You will see blessings from Him when you seize the opportunities that He gives you to follow His calling. And we see it here. That's how the story ends. Jesus asks Bartimaeus, what do you want me to do for you? Jesus, what the heck? The guy's blind. What do you think he wants? Right? Like the guy is blind. He wants to see probably, but Jesus wants to hear this guy actually acknowledge that I need help. I need help. I need guidance. I need vision. It's interesting, a few verses before this, in the previous section of chapter 10, Jesus asked the same exact question to a different group of people. Two of Jesus' disciples, the sons of Zebedee, John and James, they come to Jesus and they say, hey, Jesus, we want you to do something for us. That's their version of pleading. And Jesus says, what do you want me to do for you? Do you see how identical these questions are? They're the same, word for word. So a few verses before that, Jesus asks his disciples, what do you do? And these guys are like, well, we want to sit at your right hand and at your left hand and in your glory. Basically, when you're going to be the King of Kings, we want to be there. We want the glory. We want the respect. We want the prestige. We want to be acknowledged by other people. Kind of a feeling of this pride, like, hey, man, we want to be acknowledged. Jesus answered them in a very unique way. He said, you don't know what you're asking for. This guy, what a difference between how the disciples respond, how he responds. He said, Rabbi, I just want to see. Let me recover my sight. I believe that you can. Again, that statement of faith. I believe that you can give me sight. And Jesus asked, and the blind man says, I want to see. It matters what you want when you pray to Christ. When you plead with Jesus, it matters why you want it. Why are you asking for what you're asking? You've been praying for something. Why are you praying for what you're praying for? Do you want healing? If so, for what? Do you want a change in your life? If so, for what? Do you want new relationships? If so, for what? Why are you pleading with Jesus for what you're pleading? In this case, Jesus responds to the faith of this man, and he says, go your way, your faith has made you well. And there's that beautiful word, and immediately. Immediately, he recovered his sight and followed him on the way. That's crazy. Like, right away. Jesus restores immediately. He restores it's not about the vision. It's not even about the sight. He restores the honor of Bartimaeus. He restores the emotional and the spiritual well-being of Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus' faith was rewarded. It was not for nothing. Jesus brings restoration. He restores spiritually, morally, and emotionally. He brings back honor. He brings back recognition. He gives meaning where there's emptiness. And this is so beautiful. Look at the end of that verse. And immediately, Bartimaeus' sight was recovered, and he went home and started applying for some high-paying jobs, and maybe for some speaking tours, and to be that one speaking guy that would get people motivated. Right? Do you see that? No? Come on, you guys. Anyone see that? He became a motivational speaker. It says right there. No? What does he do? He followed Jesus on the way. You remember in the very beginning, where is Jesus going? Where is Jesus going? Jerusalem. Why is he going to Jerusalem? To die. This guy is following Jesus to death, to the cross. He's following Jesus to the cross. Destiny to true honor is not found in riches and wealth and recognition of your name. It is found on the road to the cross. There's no shortcut to glory. It goes through the cross. True honor is in following Jesus on the road to suffering with him. And he will honor you through your faithful following of him to the cross. So let's bow our heads and just reflect on the decisions that you have to make today. Just maybe close your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. If not, just stare at that floor.